So, I'm from the Wayside Chapel, which is an organisation that's been around since 1964, and what we do is we help people who are on and around the streets of King's Cross. And I plan tonight to talk about how Wayside enacts sustainability. And look, we've just finished a new green building at Wayside and it's fantastic, and I've got to acknowledge as well that we really support this traditional idea of sustainability. I think you'll be able to see in a second we've got our new green rooftop garden, or not? Oh, okay. We've got a new green rooftop garden, but it's actually not the sort of sustainability I want to talk about. What I want to talk about tonight is actually human sustainability, and the way I'm going to do that is to try and talk mainly about one individual. So I want to kind of start with how I've interpreted sustainability. And in my layman's way, I've seen sustainability as a form of conservation. So when you talk about environmental sustainability, it's largely the realization of the need to preserve things that are already there, but are being eroded. So what does it mean to actually sustain humanity in this city? I want to break it down into three areas where I see that sustainability being eroded, and that's quality of life, community, and diversity. So this is Alfie. Alfie was a drinker on the streets of King's Cross. If you spent any time in King's Cross, I'm pretty sure you would have seen him. You may not recognise his face. I mean, he's a bit pixelated, but he's someone that you've probably seen around. Alfie was a regular at Wayside. At Wayside, we see lots of people with substance abuse issues who are dealing with homelessness and mental health issues. We try to provide basic quality of life provisions. We've got toilets, which you might be able to see from the photo. Now, I'm sure you've all seen a toilet before, but these are some of the most used toilets in Sydney. King's Cross basically has no public toilets at all. It's because of the injecting issues around the area, so we understand that. But in King's Cross, even the McDonald's has a special provision where they don't have to provide toilets. There are 3 cubicles underneath the police station, but those cubicles, not all our guys are so okay to use, so we've got toilets. We've also got showers where no matter where someone slept the night before, they can have a shower. We've got change of clothes. We've got subsidised food. So Alfie used to come in almost every day and he would have a shower. Sometimes it'd be at his request, sometimes we'd have to push him a little. He'd come in, he'd get a meal, he'd get a change of clothes, those basic quality of life things. We've got a vision at Wayside, and our vision at Wayside is creating a community that doesn't have an us and them. So it's a philosophy and it's an idea of community that says just because you've ended up on the streets, you don't suddenly become a different type of person. And I'm not going to try and kid you. This isn't something that's always easy to live up to. There are days when you're actually at Wayside where you may hear someone yelling, or you hear people fighting, or you've got someone who's passing out on opiates, or you've got someone who's paranoid, or you've got someone who's high on stimulants. But what you've got to understand is those people are often the same people who last week smiled at you when you walked through the front door, or they're the same people that told you pretty much the dirtiest joke you've ever heard that you shouldn't have actually laughed at. And what that's about actually is that we're a community. And our idea of community is taking the good with the bad. You can actually see here. This is our building. And our building, it's glass doors which open straight up. And the really important thing about that is the fact that with our building, there is no front desk. There's no reception. There's no buzzer that people have to buzz. There's no people with clipboards. So people can actually come directly into our building and just be. And we rely on our volunteers. Volunteers mean that we can open our doors, but they're also an integral part of our community. Volunteers sustain the work that we do, but in a lot of ways, we sustain our volunteers' connection. We sustain their connection with humanity. And everyone at Wayside loved Alfie. There's no other word for it. There's no professional sheen that I can possibly put on it. He was loved. And he especially bonded with one of our workers. It's probably understandable, as this worker not only used to make sure that Alfie was showered, he'd actually go into the shower with him and shave him. This is the worker here, and this is the worker that Alfie actually started to open up to. Alfie started to reveal parts of his past. He had a family before he ended up on the street. He had children, and we ended up getting in contact with his daughter. And his daughter was living in Melbourne, and she hadn't seen her dad for over 7 years. She tried to hire a private detective to actually try and track him down, and this is his daughter, who is an amazing young woman. She was only 19, and they were reunited at Wayside in one of the most tender things we've ever witnessed. Alfie tried his hardest not to drink while she was in town. Now, Alfie was hit by a truck and he died last year, and he is still a sorely missed member of our community. But we got to see him not only as someone living on the streets, but as a father and a man. And unless you work or volunteer somewhere like Wayside, you just don't often get that chance. You don't get the chance to be part of this wider community. And we're not making any grand claims we saved anyone, not Alfie or his daughter, but I think it's worth celebrating the humanity of what happened. The sustainability of a man through needs being met, through community. And it brings me to my final point, because sustainability is about diversity. You know, when you talk about the essential nature of biodiversity, it's understood. If one plant, one species, or one area is lost, then a whole ecosystem can start to fall. But what about diversity of people? What happens when an area becomes so gentrified that people stop looking out of their own spheres of existence? Alfie needed a place like King's Cross, a place like Wayside, but King's Cross needed Alfie. Alfie was a face in an area that's become so gentrified. He's a person that was ignored, that was pushed away, but he was a person who was more vulnerable, more human than his invisibility. There are hundreds of people like Alfie in this city, and sustainability can't happen in a void. Sustainability of all types needs to be spoken about and discussed for action to happen. Services like Wayside, we're here to do that. We create a safe space, we create diversity, and we create community. Some people find this confronting, but this is humanity. And just because you ignore it doesn't mean it's not happening. And every human is worth sustaining. And I think that sustainability is really worth celebrating. Thank you.